Hello, everyone, and welcome to another live stream, even if it's gonna be a little bit different today because I'm not in the best condition at the moment. I told you last week in the live stream that I had a very important event yesterday, and this morning when I had to do a voice message on WhatsApp in English, I just realized that I don't have that much English today to use, so forgive me if I'm not completely up to stand, but I still decided to do the live stream today. But it was a very eventful day yesterday. And Luke, I do not know if you've heard it yet, but if you did, you probably are still laughing. But first of all, welcome to everybody who's already online. Hi Ellie, hi Roseanne, hi Katrina, hi Luke. Yeah, and I have to sort the moderator stuff, but I need to usually to have people do that are in direct contact with me outside the YouTube chat. I had moderators when I did the live streams, but when the hacker attack came, YouTube cleared everything. So that's why I even had to set up Nightbot again. Nightbot is set up as a moderator as well, and it's a bit more complicated, so I didn't have the time for that. As Murgi knows, because it's his fault, I have another channel now, the STFC channel, and that's working quite fine for a brand new channel, and so I have to put a lot of work as well in it. And there are some things that are not happening immediately at the moment. Then I just have to concentrate on the main things. That's why you don't get so many of those Nightbot messages here. I'm trying to test it from time to time, but I will figure it out in time. Nevertheless, I had a very fun day yesterday. As I said in my last live stream, it's a carnival thing. It's the Prince's Guards christening, so I'm now not a temporary but a fixed member of that, but it got really wet, I can tell you. My shoes are still drying in my bathroom, and the stuff you have to drink then, it was not about alcohol, but it was just disgusting. And but I still think I feel well enough to talk a little bit about some fun stuff, and with that I mean British politics. And if I find my script again, I can do that. I'm quite glad I set up the live stream properly. That's a little miracle. What I found for today's live stream was, despite all this migrant stuff and climate change stuff and whatever, and Rishi Sunak playing the arch conservative at the moment, in recent days I still found that Rishi Sunak is losing in the polls. So all his right-wing populism doesn't seem to pay up at the moment. And I'm quite glad to hear that, because usually, unfortunately, here in Germany, for example, when not everything is going as well as you would like it to be, you can see that the populists are gaining ground. And at least at the moment, we will see how this will develop. But at the moment, Sunak isn't that. And there we are with me losing my English today. Isn't that successful with his strategy at the moment? But until the end of 2024 or latest in January 2025, when the election have to happen, that is the decisive point. So it's quite some time until then. We will have another very important election on the continent long before that, and that is the European elections. There we will see how the populists do and so on. And I see that CJ and Uwe have joined us as well. Good evening for you. I'm with Sunak already. The bad news this week about those dangerous journeys across the what we call Ärmelkanal, that is sleeve channel in English, is that it is a dangerous crossing. And with the British government not giving a real possibility to apply for asylum on an easier way, a lot of people are still choosing that crossing, like in the Mediterranean, where it's dangerous as all. And this week, at least 6 people have died after a failed crossing of the English Channel, or the Sleeve Channel, because the French will probably not agree with the term English there. And another 50 people were rescued near Calais when they tried this. Another newspaper here in Germany spoke about 8 dead, and every single one of them, be it in the Channel or in the Mediterranean, is one too many. And the traffickers are often bringing them really in danger if they're involved in the Mediterranean with stuff like they abandoned the boats that were not working anymore and stuff like that. So that is not a thing that should happen. But that's why I'm a friend of centers already on the continent where they are coming from, where they have the chance to apply for asylum if there are really refugees, and for the others we just need proper immigration laws. Nevertheless, a total of 755 migrants on Thursday alone were registered in Great Britain who came across the Channel in small boats, and that's more than ever on a single day this year. And we are now at 15,826 migrants who have entered the UK this way since January 1st. That's at least what the PA news agency reported. And that is a total of 100,715 since those records began in early 2018. But there we are at another point. It's 100,000 too many that tried this dangerous crossing. But for 5 years, that's such a small number compared to what other countries here on the continent have with refugees coming in, that all the fuss the British government is making about them, and the Brexiteers already did in their promises in the Leave campaign, this is just a blown up topic. When I think about how many refugees this year we already had to house in my city alone, that is for a country of over 60 million, that is quite nothing. But we all know the strategies Sunak is using with to deter people from coming to the UK, and with the BB Stockholm, the barge in England, where they wanted to house 500 people, although the barge was used earlier just to house 200 people when in its former use. Now, because of the weekend and what I had to do, I prepared a video for tomorrow evening about the first ones arriving on the BB Stockholm. So don't be surprised tomorrow evening if I'm not talking about that, what I'm talking about now. The first ones arrived and had to leave again because there were 39 migrants already, and they have left the accommodation because a please forgive me. Tonight, my English will sometimes collapse. Pathogen was found, and all asylum seekers have now been relocated to an alternative accommodation. And what it was, I hope I can do that in English, it's Legionella. We know this year that is when happens usually when the water pipes in a house or something are not regularly properly cleaned, and then they can get, or they can grow in the water system, and exactly those have been found in samples from the water system, and now they need to investigate that, and they probably will properly have to clean all this. And that's why after they celebrated the housing of the first refugees on the BB Stockholm, they had to get them out. If you don't know what Legionella is, that can cause illnesses ranging from flu-like symptoms to severe pneumonia. That's why we take it very seriously here, and that's why in houses here, all your water pipes have to be cleaned regularly with extremely hot water. I don't know if you've ever seen that, but in that time when they're doing this here, you are not allowed to open any water because there would come out so hot water that it's quite dangerous. But that is how you can get rid of that stuff, or to prevent it from ever existing, and might not have been done on that boat. But Sunak wants to solve a space problem with accommodating migrants with those boats, and avoid the high hotel room costs, although those boats are quite expensive as well. And if they would process the asylum claims in a proper time, they wouldn't have all this problem. But you might have seen my video from this morning about the things they say about the kids' passports after Brexit now. They don't really know what they're doing there. And then I'm not very surprised that they need ages to process asylum claims. We have some problems here in Germany with sending back people who were processed and were found not to have legit asylum claims, but that's a different topic. But our civil service at least processes them. But I think the fun thing is, on this topic again, is that David Davis got involved there. And he is now complaining about the appalling incompetence of the Home Office. He was one of the guys with some very, let's also say incompetent involvement in the Brexit matter. So if I were him, I would be a little more cautious. But let's have a look who also has joined us. Hi Attila and hi David. The UK is short of workers. We are too, but not at such a high extent. And that's why I for ages say we need a proper immigration law. We need about, even if the AFD I mentioned earlier, and yes, Katrina, I get to your point in a second, are always denying that, we need about 400,000 legal immigrants that come to work here in Germany, but that has to be a sorted version, to fill those jobs. And that's why I don't understand people like the Brexiteers and their xenophobia and our AFD and their racism. We need those people. Just to be blunt here, we need them to work here to pay our rent. Not rent. That's a problem, because rent in English is not. We have a word Rente in German, and that's easy to mix up word-wise, but it means something totally different. What rent is, you all know, but Rente in German is the pension. And we need those people to work here and to pay into our pension system as well, so that we still can have a pension when we are in that age. I know some of my viewers are in that age, but I'm not. And, I'm self-employed. I have to work until I fall down while filming, probably. But that is what those people always forget. Why? That we need the people coming in. I mean, someone in looking at the NHS will finally have realized that, and that kicking out EU citizens that were working there or making it very hard for them to work there was not the very brilliant idea. But some still don't get it. And we have the same here. And yes, Katrina, the AfD is at the moment around 20% here in Germany. And they are not strong enough to form a government. No one will form a coalition with them. So they will not in charge anywhere until they reach an absolute majority. If that ever would happen, it would be no fun at all, I can tell you that as well. Because if you analyze their manifesto, with everything they said about the European Union, but also what they say about interior politics, that would harm our country big time. And their overall percentages are not the worst thing, but they are very, they have a very firm base at the moment in the Eastern German states, and there they are up to 35%, 34, 35% in Thuringia, and there it will be really hard to form a government that while leaving them out, because there's another strong party that is not as strong as before, and at some point it will disappear, but not in the East at the moment, especially not in Thuringia, and that's the Left Party. But there are three other parties: the Conservatives, the Greens, and maybe the Liberals. In the East, it's always a maybe with the Liberals if they're in or out. But the Conservatives don't do coalitions with the Left Party either. They have a rule that the party conference decided on not to work with the AfD, but also not to work with the Left Party. And some people say, yeah, they should drop that with the Left Party, but you shouldn't forget they are the heirs of the SED, that was the ruling party of the GDR, so the German Democratic Republic before the reunification, and that was a dictatorship. And the Conservatives here are absolutely sure that they will not work with the heirs of a dictatorship party. And so that will make a difference there, because the Conservatives, the Greens, and the Social Democrats, even if the Liberals are in, will probably not be able to form a government if the numbers stay in Thuringia the way they are now. And so it will be a very interesting thing when this election is next year. But the AfD is a problem. But the AfD is just, here in Germany, came a little bit later than in other countries. In the UK, UKIP was not a big problem because the Conservative Party, the Tories, always more and more turned into the UKIP themselves. And that's why there is no big right-wing extremist party in the UK like it is in most other countries, because the Tories just turned themselves into one. So no other party like that had the chance to come up. But that's not what I want in Germany, by the way, that the Conservative Party here turns into the AfD. And we see it in Italy, in Hungary, in Poland, and wherever. And in some places, they are the ruling parties. And Germany was just a little bit later, maybe in parts because of our history. In Western Germany, there are still parts where they don't have a real chance. In my hometown, for example, was the only one in the last general election where they wouldn't have made the 5% hurdle. We have a 5% hurdle for our parliament, and the AfD didn't make it in my hometown. But we were the only ones in Germany, and that was not so nice to know. But nevertheless, some are really aware, some aren't. And in the UK, the biggest problem now is that the Tories turned into such a party. And that will make it extremely difficult to see what would happen if the Tories win again. And that is the reason why I always say, usually I would be on the side of the Tories. If they were just the Tories, but especially since the Brexit referendum, they are not anymore. They are completely different nowadays. They are a populist party now, and they are an extreme right-wing party at the moment, with a majority within the party. And that will really make it problematic to see how it will go on. And if they can beat Labour in the next election, everything will get worse. And you know that I'm not a big friend of Labour, because I'm not a big friend of social democratic parties usually. And at the moment, I'm not a big friend of Labour as well. You've heard me in my last live streams always saying that I can't even find a real difference between them, at least not what they are saying publicly. And that is another problem. So they are both trying similar tactics at the moment, and they both are not telling the truth to the people. That's the problem. And so I'm not very optimistic with the next election. Hi, old shorts. Long time no see. Hi, Mike. You've joined us as well. Hi, Florentino. Hi, Sock Juice. Hi, 36. And is that Ishon? I once again don't know how to pronounce names, and that happens. So please don't take it bad if I can't pronounce your name properly, especially today, because that hangover will probably haunt me the next days. Nevertheless, we will definitely talk about all this right-wing stuff a lot as well in the future. And of course, we will talk a lot about the elections a lot. And so I kicked my shot. This time I shot myself a little bit in the foot because I put a very long part that I want to talk about right in the middle of my script. But I quickly want to go somewhere to not have it too serious all the time, to a point where most of you will not be that interested, but I have to bring it because it was a topic everywhere today, and so I have to mention it. Although I'm not a friend of that club, I have to talk about. But we quickly have to talk about, even if it's only football politics, but about Kane's going to Bayern München. So Bayern Munich, as most of you would say. Because that was a thing. You know that I'm going through a lot of press agency stuff every morning and the preparations for my videos. And every day I heard about the discussions between Harry Kane and Bayern München. And yesterday, finally, he went to Bayern München. He signed 2 days ago, whatever. And now he's the most expensive transfer in the Bundesliga ever after moving to Bayern München. And he left Tottenham Hotspurs after 19 years. And he wanted to go there. But there's a lot of... Before I say how successful this transfer was, at least immediately, there was a lot of reactions from British newspapers that I quickly want to talk about. And The Guardian said it's a farewell that's about to happen. The truth is Harry Kane outgrew Spurs a few seasons ago. In our hearts, every fan knew this moment was coming. It's sad it's about to go to sea, but it's no surprise. And they said not to Manchester. He hasn't moved to another English club, not to Manchester City or worse, Arsenal or Chelsea. He's leaving for Bayern. And the fans should be able to live with that. Well, if the Bayern are able to live with that cost, we will see, but probably they do. And the Sky News said the Three Lions captain joins an illustrious circle of Englanders to play abroad. The forward follows in the footsteps of Jimmy Greaves, Kevin Keegan, David Beckham, and Gary Lineker. Well, David Beckham has his own club. Didn't he just get Lionel Messi into his own club he owns? But the Sun was typical again. They had a big headline, as far as I know, that said in a hurry. So not in a hurry, but in a hurry. And Harry Kane signs with Bayern Munich and could make his debut today and lift the first trophy after the 104 million transfer. I come to that game in a second. The Mirror said, Harry Kane snapped in Germany as England captain puts the finishing touches on Bayern Munich transfer. And Kane chooses Bayern and could win his first trophy today, said the Times. Yeah, and they all said this because in the German Super Cup, the German racket champion played against the league competitor RB Leipzig. And for some of my German viewers who followed that, they will know. Well, Harry Kane wasn't playing from the beginning. He was just moving over there on that day. So nobody expected him to do something big there. He came in the 64th minute. But in the end, Bayern München lost against RB Leipzig with 0-3. And so there's nothing with his first trophy here. I obviously couldn't see the game, just a few snippets this morning. But it was not a good start. So let's all wish him a good start. I know there are not so many football fans usually on my channel, but I had to bring that in. So Harry Kane is now in Germany, and we will see how that will continue. I'm not. I mean, some of you will probably kick me, but I'm not a big fan of Bayern Munich, and also not of RB Leipzig, because I'm not a fan of all those clubs that are just doing a lot by spending a hell of money. That's the same. Mugi, you know what I'm talking about on the game I'm playing and making videos about the STFC. The people who are just doing everything with paying money and buying everything they can find there, they are not. I have no respect for them. Everybody can do that if they or their daddy has a big enough wallet, but people who achieve stuff by doing it themselves, by putting in hard work, that's what I respect. And that's why I know, but Bayern München has so many members all over Germany and everything, and everyone who likes them, be happy with it. But that's not one of the clubs. I also like my underdogs in the regional clubs more. They are fighting and often fighting for their lives. Oh, that was no pun intended, but that unfortunately brings me to another topic. I had lying there for 2 live streams already, and I never got to that point, but I want to go there. Mookie, it's your wife's wallet. Seriously, never let her hear that. But you are not one of the DWWs, so I haven't seen you spend that much money. Otherwise, you would have overtaken me already if you did that. But nevertheless, that reminds me of something quickly, and there we are, the moderator thing again, that I have to put it in myself while talking. That's why I always forget those. But there was one thing I wanted to talk about the last 2 live streams already, because it's a serious issue, and some of you will probably say that it's an old topic now, but it's still an important one, because it will get more important in the future, and that is the problem with the data of about 10,000 Northern Ireland police officers that was released. In Northern Ireland, there are repeated attacks on police officers, and some of them end fatally. We know that, even if the last one we talked about probably had a different background, but still, it's dangerous. And therefore, data about the officials are kept secret usually, and that was until recently, because since the answer to a citizen's query went too far, and the information on the names and everything of the officers was able to be viewed online. And the police in Northern Ireland have accidentally released the names of 10,000 staff in this unprecedented security breach. And police representatives warned of unforeseeable damage for officials and employees. And they said that the men and women they represent are appalled that this happened and understandably angry. That's what Liam Kelly, he's the chief of the Northern Ireland Police Federation, told the BBC, and that trust of their officials has completely been broken. 25 years after the end of the Troubles, police officers are still being attacked in Northern Ireland. Sorry. I know that's usually dry in here, but after yesterday it's even worse. And as I said, they are still being attacked in Northern Ireland, and the perpetrators are mostly radical supporters often of reunification with Ireland. And some officers from Irish nationalist families do not even mention their work to relatives for security reasons. And in February, one was shot and seriously injured in front of his son and other youths, and as a result, the terror alert level was increased there. As you know, during the Troubles, I usually call the Civil War there, 302 police officers were killed as well. And the police now blames human error for this, what they call a glitch. The authority has been asked in a so-called Freedom of Information request. You know this, we talked about this in other in regard to other things already, and that was by a citizen for a breakdown of officials and employees by rank. And inadvertently, the response also included a table listing the last names, the duty locations, and responsibilities of all more than 10,000 staff. And that started with Police Commissioner Simon Byrne. But fortunately, the private addresses were not attached. That would have been a real catastrophe, but it's at least a potentially catastrophic situation. Even if the police says, or the chief says it's avoided, but I still think it's a very bad thing. And you know, the British Minister for Northern Ireland, Chris Heaton-Harris, he was completely concerned about this, because those people are taking risks to protect everyone else. Especially, there are still radical groups on both sides there that they do not agree with the Good Friday Agreement, and now they have failed to protect the police itself. There was a crisis meeting on Thursday. I haven't heard about the results of that crisis meeting, but I hope that they at least can avoid this from happening again, because they can never undo this. You know this with the internet. Whatever is out there, you can never get it back. You can never have it all deleted, because it spread so quickly that it cannot be undone. But the thing is that it must not happen again, and especially must not happen again in the worst version. As I said, if this could happen once, it might happen a second time, and suddenly all their private addresses are out, and that would put the people really in imminent danger. And so that's why, even if it didn't happen yesterday, I still wanted to include that topic here, because we know what is going on. The Northern Ireland Protocol is an issue for those people that are against the Good Friday Agreement at all, and for a lot of radicals, and I don't mean even the DUP. There are, even if some will say, is it possible there are worse people than the DUP? And they might take their chance if they find something like this to flare up the troubles. I mean, there are politicians that are flaring up the troubles again all the time, and try to do everything for their own purpose to ever prevent a reunification from happening. But it must not happen. Yeah, the TUV is more extreme than the DUP, but there are also still on both sides armed paramilitary groups. You know that there were groups on the Republican side that didn't agree with the Sinn Féin putting down their arms and agreeing to the Good Friday Agreement, and on the other side as well, there are still a lot of armed people around there on both sides that will do everything they can to reach their agenda. And putting policemen at risk like this would help them find targets. And I'm sorry that I have to say it that bluntly with those words, but that is something that must be prevented, and this must never happen again. If I were a policeman there, I probably would quit right now and move to another part of the country. I'm just being honest. They are probably sticking to their duties, but they will not feel good at the moment, I can tell you that much. And that's why I wanted to talk about this, because people need to know what is going on in Northern Ireland, and Northern Ireland has become a much bigger issue again because of Brexit. Nobody had real issues until Brexit, because Ireland was in the EU, the UK was in the EU. There was complete freedom of movement there anyway. There was the free flow of goods, capital, and people. And there, you couldn't see the border or anything. You had no trouble getting stuff from both sides in your shops and everything. And Brexit makes everything so much harder. And Brexit is not only a danger to some economies or a danger to the income of some people or the cost of living, but it's also a real danger to human lives again. Whenever it's about Northern Ireland and you mess up with this still fragile situation in Northern Ireland, Brexit is a danger for human lives there. And some people, when they are discussing, or when I just think about Jeffrey Donaldson, and what they sometimes say, I always have the feeling they don't care about human lives at this point, because they take it all too lightly, or take it all too lightly in that case that they just want to pull through their political agenda, that they are only interested in their own power. And that is something I will never understand. But somebody else does the same, and there were some discussions here in Germany recently, because the UK is very involved there, and that had to do with the Ukraine war. You know, if you've seen my magazine channel at the moment, because of the tons of Russian trolls, even if I don't have many views with that, I want to bring neutral information out there about the development in the Russian war of aggression against Ukraine. And the British Military Intelligence Service publishes analyses of the Ukraine war every day. And now the question came up in Germany, how credible are UK intelligence reports? How reliable are the reports, and is there a strategy behind them? For example, there were headlines from those reports like, Putin is arming the National Guard, Russian Air Force ineffective, Russia is taking action against VPN access. They appear every day, articles like this. And those reports refer to Britain as a source when it comes to developments in Ukraine. I see this every day when I go through the press agencies I'm paying for. And I always find at least one report from British security circles there. And they are always saying they want to inform their allies and they want to contradict the Russian propaganda. But where are those reports coming from? Because they are doing this regularly, and those reports are due to the British Military Secret Service Defence Intelligence. And every day the British Ministry of Defence uses the short message server X, we recently still knew as Twitter, to distribute a Ukraine update based on analyses by the Secret Service. And partly it's about the latest developments of the past 24 hours, but often it's also about medium and long-term changes on the battlefield. And the main focus is on the strengths and weaknesses of the Russian armed forces. And apparently out of consideration for operational security, the Ukrainian side is discussed much less frequently. Reports like this are normal a task of the secret services, and they are usually not intended for the public, but are aimed at politicians and authorities. But the British must have a strategy they pursue with giving all those updates. And experts say about this, there is something in Ukraine that you could call a battle of narratives. It's about spreading our version of the truth as quickly as possible. And that was said by Lawrence Roche, and he described this to German media. Roche was a major in the British Army and a spokesman for various military units until 2021. And he recognized the potential of social media early on, and in 2009 was the first British soldier to officially tweet from the deployment in Iraq. And like so many organizations, the military has a multitude of acronyms and jargon, and it's about communicating their activities in a way that the general public can understand this. And the fact that the reports are widely distributed and picked up by the media is considered a great success by the British. But have the media the chance to verify these intelligence reports? Because the reports often cover military issues to which correspondents on the ground in Russia and Ukraine have only limited access, and this makes the independent verification quite difficult. And of course, the secret services do not cite their sources for their analyses. But that, of course, is something nobody can criticize. If a military secret service would name their sources would be dead the next minute probably. But the other thing is that they never publish any precise locations or something. But the British observations rarely come as a surprise to military experts, because it's often around topics that are already being discussed among experts there. And this has already led to accusations against the military intelligence service that it sometimes uses on other analysts or pick up on rumors from Russian Telegram channels. But in contrast to reports from the Russian authorities, there have been so far no signs of targeted or systemic misinformation in the British dossiers, because the Russians do that the whole time, and we all know this. But so far, I must agree with the German media here that I haven't seen anything in all those reports I see every day where you could think, oh, this is just some misinformation campaign by the British. So from my point of view, they are doing quite a good job here. And if they ever would do that, that would really get attention, and people would be pinning the British to the wall, as we would say. But Moscow, of course, accuses the British Ministry of Defense of a disinformation campaign every day. But you shouldn't take it too seriously as well. Of course, if something says, according to Secret Service information, you might think that is extreme important, of course. But you have to fight not to put too much importance to this analysis, because many of those observations I saw, that's why I'm not bringing most of them in my videos every day, because they're sometimes just quite banal information, or just something very, very limited, and that's why I'm not using them very often, but I'm interested to read them. But they are, of course, extremely shortened, and if there is a big analysis behind it, you cannot put this on X or on other social media, because this cannot be long essays. It needs to be some headlines, like we know from other purposes. And you really have to pay attention to the wording used by the secret services to see how important the information really is. And there are some wording they're using. If something is unlikely, that means about a probability of 25 to 35%. If something is between likely, most likely, and almost certain, the likely part is so 55 to 75%, and the British government would have further information on their website. So if you see something like this where they say likely, very likely or something, and you're interested, you have to have a look on the British full reports here. Those snippets are really for grabbing the attention, for fighting all those Russian trolls and their fake news, but it will not give you a detailed information. That's why half of my day always is by research. I don't start filming in the morning, I can tell you that one. I spend a lot of time doing research on a lot of things on my computer before I even set a foot in my studio. And so I spent much more time in research than in the studio filming. And it's the same with the live stream, of course. And but it's I think it's really important that the British do that, and that they publish that every day, because when I see in my research every day as well, of course, what the Russian side says, and when I see what the journalists from Germany alone that are in Ukraine and that are in Russia can tell me from being at this side, so to speak, you know immediately that a lot what Dmitry Peskov is pulling out, or Medvedev, that is just complete misinformation. And in a war, we always have the problem. The first thing that dies in a war is the truth. But you can still try to get as close to it as possible. That's why I'm quite grateful for all the German journalists that are at the front line in Ukraine at the moment, and the journalists that are still holding the position in Russia. Although at the moment it must not be very nice to be a foreigner in Russia, in Moscow, from the side of the government, I mean, not the general public, because they will be under observation all the time as well. And so it's really important to get as reliable information as possible. And then, of course, you have to weigh information. That is why populism is so dangerous. It works in a war as well. I can hear a lot of Germans that are against German. They're not the majority here, but there are Germans against weapon deliveries and everything, and that they say we have to get in terms with the Russians now again. Even during the war, we have to get there. We're back at the AfD. They want to open the gas imports from Russia again. What a load of crap. And because they just listen to those headlines, especially the headlines the AfD is publishing. And those people that are falling for the AfD are believing that Russian nonsense as well, because the AfD is repeating that. They are claiming that they are against this war, but they are completely on the side of Putin. And that you can be on the side of someone that started a war against another country. I will not open up those comparisons again. So I see that Roshin has come online as well. Hi. I hope I still remembered the pronunciation of your name correctly. And even today. And I haven't looked at the chats for quite some time. It was quite quiet. Maybe the topic wasn't so much for everyone. I just remember, Ali, you forgot to put up your menu today. I at least didn't see your menu in the beginning of the video. Just wanted to say I really missed it. Even if I still have to make dinner after the live stream. But once you start with that, I miss it when you don't do it anymore. So let me please know next week again what's the menu. I know you're cooking whenever I'm starting this live stream on Sundays, that you are usually cooking at the time. And so I'm always interested in your menu. Nevertheless, I will keep it a little bit short today. I hope you have well, you had to listen to my word stumbling today. But I still wanted to see you all today, so that's why I still did the live stream. For next week, I talked about this. Next week on Saturday is my birthday, so I might celebrate on that day a little bit more than yesterday was not so much the celebration part, but the christening part that struck me down. But next week I might like a weekend off, so I might skip the live stream next week, because I would like to have a birthday weekend. So I hope you don't mind if I'm not saying already that I will do this, but I will let you know in time. I mean, you will see if there's a live stream set up, and I will put a announcement out not only on Discord for my patrons and members, but also on the channel page when I know if I do a live stream or not. But it might be, so that's why I'm saying this already, that I will skip it next weekend, because for my birthday, I would probably like to have some time off for once at a weekend, because at the moment I'm working 7 days a week usually, and that's quite a lot. And Ellie's menu, Caribbean snapper, Thais and grilled veggies. Well, I'm not such a big fish fan, but that sounds good. Caribbean always sounds good. Or if you go a little further north, then, and there we are back at Star Trek and Cisco, some Creole kitchen is nice as well. And with that, you sometimes even can make me eat fish, although I usually don't like it that much. But with a Creole kitchen or Caribbean kitchen, you might get me sometimes to eat fish. And so I hope you have a nice dinner, Ellie, and I hope the rest of you as well. Mogi, as I said, I don't know if you heard the mail, but you let me know if you loved your all whatever off. For the rest of you, I wish you a nice rest of the Sunday. Of course, in the morning there will be another Outside Views video. If you have missed anything from the last days, have a look at the playlists out there. There was some Brexit and some UK politics recently. Have a look over. It's at my STFC channel if you haven't been there yet. And don't forget, if you want to get in contact, consider to become a patron of my channel. And then there are some nice people up there you can have a chat with, and I'm regularly there as well. And we'll see us definitely tomorrow morning in my next video. Ellie, guten Appetit, and for the rest of you, take care.